Hey, good morning, it's Aaron with SixGill Fishing. We're in the middle of the Texas spawn. Wanted to come out and make a video for you today on one of my favorite techniques, the Texas rig. So one of the key things that I like to do whenever we're fishing in the spawn is make sure that I have a silent presentation. And what I mean by saying that is when I throw a bait at a bed or along brush or on the shoreline trying to find those fish, that when my bait hits the water, it's silent. It's not a loud splash. Main reason for that is during the spawn, bass become super sensitive to sound as well as light. And my favorite combo for this is going to be the siren rod, and I'll pair that with a 7:1 gear ratio Hamar reel. 15-pound fluorocarbon, and then I'll normally run a creature bait such as a lizard or a brush hog. Today I'm running a plum lizard, and then I've dyed his tail green or chartreuse. My normal go-to on that is going to be, it's a 3/0 SixGill offset hook, and I'm running that on just an 1/8 ounce tungsten weight. I do modify my rig a little bit, which I think entices my bite, and it gives me also some options. What I'll do is I'll put a peg on it, and I put that peg about 1 foot up from where my weight is, so the line can still slide, so it's still a Texas rig. But what it allows me to do is if I find a bedding fish and I'm throwing my rig in and I can't get a bite with that bait in doing a hopping motion like it does with a Texas rig, then I'll take my bobber stop or my peg and I'll actually bring it down the line to about 2 inches, maybe 1.5 inches above it. So that way when I pop that weight, what happens is the whole bait itself doesn't actually come off the bed. It'll actually just scoot that across the bed a little bit. And that seems to really help me out with getting bites. It's something that you might want to try in your local waters as well. He's a little guy, but he's a fish. So my normal presentation when I'm along a shoreline, such as what we have today, this is just kind of a buckbrush shoreline. There's a little bit of underwater vegetation as far as leaves and maybe just a little bit of moss. What I like to do is I like to keep the boat anywhere from 20 to 35 feet from the shore, depending how far out my brush comes. And then what I'll do is instead of making a cast, I'm actually just going to flip and I'm going to pitch my bait. Now, what that allows me to do is that allows me to slow the bait's descent as it gets closer to the water, and I can get that silent entry. It's not a loud splash. So one of the key things that whenever you're throwing one of these baits to help in a kind of a little visual is what I like to do is on my Hamar, mine is normally set about 2 clicks from the plus sign, and that's for me to flip a bait or pitch a bait or even skip, like skipping a jiggle on the top of the water. That's what I like to do. So I'll leave my reel settings the same. With my line being a little bit heavier, it helps get that bait down in the water column a little faster. What I like to do is I'll let that bait hit the water, and I'll normally let it sit for 2 or 3 seconds, let it actually just rest on the bottom. And I'll just actually take my hand and place it right here on the lower section of the rod. And instead of, like I said, instead of making a popping motion, what I'll do is actually just kind of shake the rod a little bit and see if I can get a reaction strike. What that will do is in the water, it will actually kind of walk my bait across the bottom compared to that hopping motion that we were talking about earlier. If I'm not getting anything on that, normally I'll spend 10 or 15 minutes trying to do that around the brush, and then I may come back on that same pass and hit it where I do more of an up and down motion to see if I get a bite. If not, I'll move along. Once I normally get a bite on a Texas rig, then I'll normally stick with that same bait. Keep in mind that when you are throwing a Texas rig, you will need to adjust your rod. What I mean by saying that is today this is a smaller weight, so I don't mind, I'll throw it on a medium action rod. But if I'm throwing something that's heavier cover or a heavier weight, something that's like 3/4 ounce or a 1 ounce or even 1.5 ounce tungsten, I'll go to a medium heavy, the 7.3 or 7.6 model. Hey guys, I really hope that you enjoyed the video, and thank you for tuning in today. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.